now we need to spend on time on my controversial top 8, which I don't think was very controversial. You apparently do. So, over the weekend, we saw the Clemson Tigers find themselves in a battle. Like, they were in a position. They were 4-touchdown favorite on the road in Chapel Hill playing against a team that has a new coach. They're younger. They were not expected to be in this game. They're bad. No. That's where I disagree.
Bad.
They're not bad. They're 2-3. They're 2-3. They're not 0-5.
When you're a 28-point dog, you're bad, no matter who you're playing.
Or are you good if you're Clemson on the flip side? Because I think Clemson is still a great team. Now, if Clemson did not play well, their quarterback still struggled. They struggled to protect him. And Carolina had a monumental performance defensively, coming up with some stops. Now, there was a position. Game was on the line. Carolina they score the touchdown, which would have been the game-tying touchdown if they had gone for the extra point. Mac Brown says, you know what? This is the number 1 team in the country. I don't like our chances if this game goes on through a whole overtime. Let me take a swing for the fence and see if we can win it on one play. Love that decision. I have no problem with Mac Brown going for it in that position. He goes for it. They don't get it. Clemson wins. Okay, end of story. So now you have the polls which come out on Sunday. The AP Top 25 comes out, and guess who is no longer number 1 in those polls? The Clemson Tigers.
How could they be?
Well, so here's my thing. And this is why in my top 8, I have Clemson number 1 still retaining the belt, if you will, because I am a little bit old school in this philosophy. I don't mind if you look at the top 25 and you shuffle them around somewhat. If you said, hey, Ohio State looked really good, which they did against Nebraska, I bumped them up. They moved up 3 spots in my poll to number 3. But I am old school in the thinking. In the words of Ric Flair, if you want to be the man, you have to beat the man. You don't have to look better than the man. You don't have to have a better strength of schedule than the man. All you have to do is keep winning if you're the man, and you should retain your spot. That's my old school philosophy with Clemson.
You stopped listening to Ric Flair because there was a second sentence he said.
Oh, okay.
He said, but if it's a boy who's trying to beat the man, all you have to do is come close.
All right. So that's where you're going with. So with that response, I would say this is where it bothers me the most, is that with Clemson, it happened to Florida State a few years ago. They were defending national champion from 2013. They go to 2014. They started off the year number 1. And then all of a sudden they have some sluggish performances, just like Clemson does. They don't lose. They don't look good. They don't look the part. So they start dropping in the polls. And you're like, all right, well, and everybody's saying, well, they don't look like the number 1 team in the country, which I understand. They didn't look like the number 1 team in the country. But as the defending national champion, they were penalized for not looking the part, and they were seeded lower. Therefore, when Oregon, who they faced in the Rose Bowl that year in the playoff, was the higher seed, they got to play in a Rose Bowl that was much closer to their fan base. So the team that has the higher seeding has the advantage once you get to the playoffs. So I was at that game. It was 95% Oregon fans because Florida State fans, it was expensive to travel. They had just traveled to California the year before for the national championship game. They had little to no representation while they were at the game. It's definitely not the reason because they got worked in that game, but I do think it would have been a different outcome. Maybe not have won or lost, but it would have been closer had Florida State had an advantage of playing closer to home. That's where I have a problem with it. Like, in what world do we live in where all of a sudden a defending champ gets knocked? Typically, it is the underdog has to go to the heavyweights, the champion's grounds on his terms and fight him, knock him off wherever the champ resides.
But don't worry, because now Alabama's number 1, and under this theory, if Alabama ever gets challenged by a boy the way Clemson did,
yes,
then Clemson can retake it.
They
so
can.
If you're going to be consistent, which the AP is, you now
they just flip-flop theirs, too, which I don't like.
Consistent means Clemson could retake it.
They could, in theory.
That's the point.
I have a hunch they don't.
You're staying with I don't even have to log on. Can I say that?
Yeah.
And look at your top 8.
Because you know who's going to be number 1.
Boring.
See, but is it boring,
I want the excitement.
Or is it right?
I love it when the poll comes out.
I can't stand when the poll comes out because crap like this happens.
I don't care.
No, I'll shake up
3.
I'll shake everybody else. I'll shake up everybody else in the poll.
Nope. I care about who you have number 1.
Clemson had a sloppy game. That doesn't mean they shouldn't deserve to be in the game.
And you said that quarterback? It's not that quarterback. You're talking about who's supposed to be the best, maybe behind Tua.
He is underwhelmed.
Second best quarterback.
And they have to figure that out. If they want to repeat his national championships, Trevor
Lawrence was mediocre.
Absolutely.
He can't be mediocre and be the number 1 team in the country.
And he has been all season long. But When did they get beat? I must have missed that. I thought
They almost got beat.
I thought if you're supposed to get knocked down, you should have to lose. That's the way I would think. Sorry. What matters on the field and the scoreboard, as you do as a kid, when your other team's talking trash and you say, just look at the scoreboard, that's what I think all that should matter. I don't think style points or how you should look should matter.
That's not how polls work.
Agreed. Agree to disagree on the final point there, though. A lot of shake-up.
Polls do work that way?
No, I think polls are the dumbest thing invented in college
And why
sports.
do you do your poll?
Because I have to. It's part of the business. It's
Is
part of
that
the
part of your
conversation.
contract?
No, but it's part of the.
Can you imagine the negotiation? Danny, we're going to need a poll out of you.
I know, right? They actually, when I was at my former companies, they did. It was a requirement. This year, it's not, but I know it's going to drive a lot of discussion.
We're here at CBS.
That's right.
We understand that there
That's
doesn't
right.
need to be a poll.
All right, we got to take a break. We're going to do Major League Baseball, I promise, next, right here on Kanell Bell.